just that it's constantly fleeting. You know, that there has to be like constantly like there's like more forays into you know, when you read like John Krakauer, who wrote like not Mountains, but that's a totally other person. He wrote Into the Wild. You know, there just has to be like a constant reinstatement of masculinity, and it's always like, you know, who do you see like, you know, at EMS, like at Eastern Mountain Sports, like, you know, it's all these like, you know, white men who are like, you know, ready to go like and kayak through the wild and like, you know, and come back with all of their stories of like conquering the trails. And did you have a question?
Yeah, I think that this is something you've thought about a lot and I haven't, and so for me this jump has been really big. Okay. And so I guess I'm trying to follow you, and I see that the gender differences in the way we view the earth and urban and human and everything that's non-human, and so I see that, but the sexuality that you're talking about, this idea of sexual, I don't know, can you go back and pad that?
Sure. Okay, so what I was saying was that humans are conceptualized as heterosexual males, as an aggregate, all of humanity, versus a not necessarily specified not gender, but not specified sexuality of nature, but nature is conceptualized as female, and the role of humanity in its relationship to nature is to conquer it, but also have this kind of courtly romance. I mean, that's how nature is conceptualized by the people who invented like the national parks, like John Muir and Freeman Tilden and Theodore Roosevelt. This is how they just discussed it as being. What's that?
So it sounds like you're saying that this sort of conceptualization of these particular sectors is specific to white culture, and maybe even just American culture or Europe, you know, Western culture.
For sure.
So could you speak any more on that break between what you're saying is existing within the Western culture and then?
Absolutely. I mean, there's like just like I'm sorry. I'll get to that in a moment. Do you feel like I answered your question at all?
Yeah, I guess I was just feeling like you were jumping really fast and like I wanted to hear more. Like you said, like just the things that you were reiterating that reinstate this idea of conceptualizing and how that plays out in our minds. I mean, to make the jump from this is how we interact as men and women to take that and turn it into really big scenarios is really interesting, and I just wanted more of that.
For sure. Well, I mean, I'll be speaking more about that. But so your question is how does like white culture like interact with nature? Is like you want?
No, I guess I'm a little confused because I'm hearing you say that like this is the way that these things are treated, but I'm kind of trying to understand, is this something that you're saying is actually a conscious position that people take, or is this like a projection that we can make based on what what the cultural understanding of gender is in our culture? Is this a projection that we can then recognize and recontextualize our relationship to nature, or are you trying to say that it's separate from that? And then there's
that is what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's necessarily conscious, but the way that we are taught in our culture about nature and our relationship to nature, I think has a lot to do with the way that we are taught about relationships between male-bodied people and female-bodied people.
The parallels between.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
So it's kind of redefining the term of sexuality in terms of a new space to put it into, apply it to?
Absolutely. Well, I guess what I'm trying to do is make a theoretical jump, and you're right in calling it that, where we're applying queer theory, which is critique of heterosexual relationships or heterosexism or heterocentrism and gender binaries to how we conceptualize the environment. And So that's, I mean, maybe I should have stated that a little
No,
earlier.
it's great, good to hear, yeah.
But I guess that's the focus of this. And it doesn't happen very often, which is why I'm like trying to advance this idea that we can queer our understandings of nature and understand where the roots are in heterosexism and heterocentrism are in our society's destruction of nature and conquering of nature.
Question.
What's up?
I have a question. I was kind of lost when, so I totally get the sort of feminization and racialization of nature in this way. I'm feeling lost as to exactly how it, because you made a comment that like nature is sort of constructed as queer in a way. And I just sort of wondering if you could flesh that out a little bit and sort of, or if you're going to, a little more. And
I'll get to that in a
is it
little
sort of
bit.
like weird, or do you mean like literally like queer? Or like the way
I'm saying that not queer as we see it, but by masculinity and by its heterosexual interpretation or conceptualization of nature. Nature is a queer other which needs to be conquered in order for masculinity to be asserted, because that's how so often in our society masculinity is asserted by attacking and destroying queer people, to assert what heterosexuality means. It's by destroying the other or by conquering it. So queer theory is the critical analysis of how things emerge in terms of sexuality and gender, and really what that means in terms of equitable relationships between men and women and queer people and male-bodied people. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it could be helpful at this point if you would maybe share your definition of queer as you're applying it.
Okay. I mean, I think that I am jumping between a couple of different ideas of what queer means. I mean, there's the idea that queer is that things are queer by things are made queer by the dominant culture. They're like made into an other, and there's the conception or the queer theory, which is where we're investigating that other and what it means to be other. Maybe we can get some thoughts of like what queer means. Go for it.
I think the way I've been thinking about this, and the only way I think it makes the most sense with your framework is in terms of perversion, kind of. And I think that because you could say, like Jason was saying, that there's the femininity of nature, masculinity of like hegemonic Western like white culture, but then you have this kind of parallel movement that I think you've articulated of then somehow it becomes other, and it seems like, and I think maybe we would need like empirical evidence, which I think you brought up a little bit of, but of like why would something need to be conquered in the first place? Like why would something be perceived as a threat? And usually that has to do with, I guess on one level, like aggressiveness or like like mortal danger, but a lot of times that like mortal danger or whatever, that danger is linked to a kind of perversion of that, like this person, or this entity is like perverse and like deviant somehow and needs to be tamed in order to be dealt with. And I think that's where you might be able to fit that into the queer aspect, because that's how like queerness and homosexuality is constructed as deviant over time.
For sure.